This car is weird by Kodakula channel. Yeah, things will get crazy now. Let's watch it.
Every single one of you. You just wouldn't let it be. To those of you perhaps tuning in after a hiatus on the channel or are new here, I apologise, welcome and all that, but I've got something that I have to get off my chest. After I initially brought it up one single time in a second channel video over a year ago, you idiots just keep pressing me over and over. Every single bloody video for the past year has had comments slyly trying to shoehorn its name in. Oh, maybe he went to Madagascar. Haha, silly Dank. Clearly he killed himself and fled to Madagascar. That's cool and all, Dank, but what about what's going on in Madagascar? Where's the Madagascar video? Madagascar, Madagascar, Madagascar. Because of you and your pride and your ego, you've given my staff the one thing that they should never have been allowed to have.
Give me Madagascar video, Madagascar,
an
Madagascar,
and
Madagascar,
Madagascar. Because those little script gimps were meant to be unseen forces behind the camera, meant to help with research and writing the videos to put on your feed so that you can listen to me waffle on about some stupid shit whilst you cruise down the I-70 en route from Topeka to Denver. So, because all of you cool kids decided to entertain one of my staff's retarded notions, everything started falling apart. It started off slow. Africa-chan started making me gay in sponsorship reads. And I can't do a fucking thing about it now, because it turns out that the sponsors fucking love that shit for some reason and keep greenlighting it. To which I want to say, I'm not fucking gay, by the way, but now sponsors are actually sending scripts back and telling me that it's not gay enough. Then Africa-chan took it upon himself to become our prop master. So I gave him the company card so that he could get hats and other such doodads so that he could humiliate me under the guise of sprucing up videos or audience engagement. But I know what he's really playing at, because after all, look at this shit. Why do we have this? Why do we have this? What possible reason could there be for us needing a fucking plasma rifle? I know exactly what you're doing. You just want increasingly bizarre thumbnails and reaction images because you're a fucking child. Give me the company card back. Then, partway through a fairly normal video on YouTube, peace be upon him, Africa-chan just started rambling off incoherent babble about space elevators and caves. And then before...
I would love to have those said chimps in my basement editing my videos, so I wouldn't need to edit myself.
Before you know it, I've got an entire stupid alternate history universe that nobody likes to acknowledge. Which I don't even remember filming, by the way, due to what can only be described
I love how his
as
sponsors are
Pavlovian conditioning.
too.
Then the other staff started getting notions.
Very
First,
lovely.
it was the editor. He was actually enabling Africa-chan's insubordination under the guise of just following orders and exercising editorial authority. Yeah, right, as though you weren't taking perverse pleasure in fucking with me and allowing Africa-chan to put in pictures with shitty-looking wingdings in videos. Making me look like a silly billy in front of the audience. Well, who's the silly billy now? It then became terminal when my remaining writer also became defiant. That's how we ended up with those fucking dumb noir intros and videos about weird shit like Indians being crushed by trains and what the fuck is a Brazil. At this point, I was experiencing what could only be described as an office mutiny, with my own channel increasingly becoming a shitter and slightly more racist Channel Awesome knockoff, complete with its own cringe cinematic universe that really does insist upon itself. You know, I thought that giving these people an inch with their retarded 2-hour-long passion projects would temper them, but no, actually, it made it so much fucking worse. Now they're wanting to start an entire series unironically called fucking Race Review. And it's making myself and my contacts at YouTube very, very fucking nervous for good reason. At least when Dutton does it, he can actually make a broader
Brazil
point
is my
beyond just making the same
it's my country.
Jews,
I love my country.
What's a Belgian?
No, it's not a prison.
Irish people are black, etc. But you know what? Fuck it, you win. I hope this video manages to make some of you people finally happy, even at the cost of making my staff happy. Something that I never ever intended nor would ever want. I didn't even write this rant, by the way. My staff just took a note of all of my frustrations and rages over all of the shit that they do all the fucking time, and then decided to combine it into some gay little meta-aware act of kayfabe. Oh, wait, where did that come from? What the fuck's that angle even for? Father, forgive my audience, for they know not what they do.
Yes, Madagascar. Now you're talking.
I knew he was there the whole time. Men like that is hardly subtle. I heard he fell off his rocker long before he arrived. I'll keep his secret though. Men's been through enough. Some places are too weird to handle, but others are just weird enough for one to fit in. Way I see it, everyone wins for once. I've got my testimony, Meekin's got his big scoop, and Chan's found his place. Never thought he'd be here, but weirder things have happened.
Oh, there it is. Who took with his cranium? Well, onwards to find the prophet's skull measurements.
Kept you waiting, huh? Now we all love countries. After all, without countries, we would have nothing to be bigoted over. Some are big, some are small, some are great, some speak French. And we must forgive them for that cardinal sin and pray for their improvement. But let me tell you about an island.
If Brazil was a person, she'd be Kersha's mom with a tan? No, it would literally be my president, my actual president, yeah.
A land of great size and beauty, with alien geography and even more alien people. A land of things so thoroughly distinctive from its immediate neighbours, with such weird flashes of history that it honestly sounds like it was made up in a stupid world-building exercise and it couldn't possibly be real. Well, guess what, liberal? It is real. Madagascar.
Finally! Let's go! After 7 minutes.
Please leave a like and a comment on this video because it really helps me in the algorithm.
No, it doesn't help. It doesn't help.
Oi, don't be nosy. I am very, very protective of my privacy, so I don't want you, the government, or any other nerdy world finding out where I go to see the good stuff. Like premium fursuit tailors. That's why I use Surfshark VPN. A VPN, or virtual private network, encrypts your data when you're connected to the internet to hide your IP address and activity from trackers and snoops. And it allows you to connect to servers all over the world. Such a service is essential on public Wi-Fi, where anyone could be watching.
If it was other
Surfshark's
person
no logs
ads, like
policy
I would
means
have
that even
jumped already.
they can't see what you're doing. So, the only person who knows how I make my true self come to life with chest-mounted glitter cannons is me. And of course, you can use your VPN to access the different libraries of streaming services across the globe.
Ooh.
But did you know that you can also use it for shopping sites? For instance, Dick's Sporting Goods is only available in America. Which is a shame because you all know how much I love Dick's. But all I have to do is set my VPN to an American server and I can browse Dick's to my heart's content. But that's not all, because Surfshark also provides an antivirus, which regularly scans my devices for anything nasty and notifies me if any malicious files are downloaded.
Okay,
And
I'll
it
jump
protects your
this time,
emails
okay?
from scams
Wait,
and
I don't know
phishing
where
attacks,
it ends.
which means
I don't know where
will
it
get
ends.
extra 4 months
I think
free
it's
at
here.
checkout. Again, that is surfshark.com/Dankula for an additional 4 months free at checkout. Thanks very much to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Now, why in God's name are we talking about Madagascar? After all, isn't it just a wee chunk of Africa whose only claim to fame is being that one place in Plague Incorporated that I infuriatingly can't infect, and also being the place known for turning Sacha Baron Cohen into a quirky singing lemur?
Actually, all of us actually forget. I mean, at least me, always forget about Madagascar. Like, before we actually had the movie Madagascar. I mean, I knew that Madagascar existed before that. But come on, who remembers of Madagascar?
The real reason is, frankly, I'm very, very bored and I need money. So we're just going to have a quick lesson on one of the most underrated fanfics ever put to paper. From a glance, Madagascar's history may seem a little bit short and stout compared to some other island nations. But trust me when I say it's just as dense as anything Allah could conjure up. I'll hit you with the normie lore. Then, when you're adequately acclimated to it, I'll start divulging the real bangers. So, without further ado, we should probably begin with the people who call this enigmatic African satellite home. Now, put those N-word passes away, because they're not. The dwellers of Madagascar are not actually African. Yes, really. The dominant ethno-linguistic group, the Malagasy, are actually Polynesians that somehow managed to migrate around 2,200 years ago from Sumatra and Indonesia, or Malaya and
I know nothing
Malaysia,
about Madagascar.
all the way across the Indian Ocean on flimsy wee canoes, using nothing but the sky and sheer grit to navigate their way to a whole other continent, snaking up around the stinky tortilla chip of India and down the eastern coast of Africa to hit our island of interest. A mere 5,000-mile voyage on rickety fucked up pieces of driftwood. And that's how we know they're not black. As not only does that require grit, wanderlust and expertise, but it also requires you to be able to float. So, right off the bat, we are starting our prologue with some rather extraordinary premises. I don't care if they were probably hugging the coast, that journey is still fucking absurd, even by Polynesian standards. Trust me, I'd know. Of course, throughout history, there were the odd migrations of Indians, Arabs and Bantus from neighbouring Mozambique coming over in great waves of cultural enrichment. As such, the original Austronesian settlers mostly either died out or grew and diverged into separate tribes and ethnic groups. In the 800s, Arab traders arrived alongside a wave of Bantu-speaking brothers, to the point that some groups are over 70% diverse. As such, we can safely call Madagascar Mulatto Land.
Why my country? Why my country? What my country has to do with this? Oh my god.
No, not that one. Madagascar is a big place. Like, really fucking big. As in, it's the size of metropolitan France. And that includes places like Guyane, New Caledonia, and a bunch of small islands, with a whole Switzerland to spare. That is to say that, as far as island nations go, Madagascar is a chonky boy, or to put it in American terms, it's about 4/5 the size of Texas. Which puts into perspective not only how big Madagascar is, but how sparsely populated Texas is, at only 30 million rootin' tootin' Texans. If you want to think of it like this, It is an island stretching half the eastern seaboard of the US. So what kind of flora and fauna did the settlers find in this massive uninhabited island paradise? What dazzling sights did they get to bask in?
Yeah,
Well, my chuddy, let me tell you, because obviously we all know lemurs. They're kind of the quintessential thing that evokes Madagascar, and indeed they are actually a real animal that can be found just faffing around in the wilderness, probably riddled with all kinds of diseases. By the way, there are over 100 different subspecies of lemur on the island. Don't know why I needed to include that, but it's something to mull over. Also, there was once massive gorilla-sized lemurs, but they're all extinct now. I am resisting every single urge that I have right now to go on about Lemuria. But that's for later. But basically, it's totally not real. Tectonics just totally do that. Don't worry about it. Take your medication. Madagascar also has trees. Have you ever seen a giant baobab tree? No, seriously, that is not photoshopped. They actually just do look like that. It's like a fucking child drew the thing. And genuinely, I really don't know what else to say other than it seems like God was a little bit of a toddler when he was doing the art assets for Madagascar. This place looks like the big guy hit a bong and was giggling his arse off when he designed everything.
What? Why do you have to talk about Oceania then, huh? What the fuck you have to talk about them too? That's a lot of weird animals there.
On this fucking island.
And insects.
But you really need
Come
to work
on,
your
kangaroos.
Proportions. Fun fact, the largest baobab tree in Madagascar is the fuck off I'm not saying that, which is 1,200 years old and whose name roughly translates to the tree where one cannot hear the song from one side to another. Very cool, except for the fact that it's sadly been dealt a death blow by Cyclone Jude, and it's now sadly dying. Of course, the painting is only as good as the canvas, to which Madagascar is a fucking weird canvas, with the west being essentially a mountainous desert with the odd stretch of brush that greens out closer to the coast and has gnarly cliff-faced rivers, contrasted by the eastern coastline being a literal tropical rainforest, defying logic through extremely strange geographic shenanigans that is far too complex for me to get into. Like, it involves warm air currents and shit like that. Though, that aside, you have a wide array of odd biomes to get diseases in. One such example of an odd biome is Tsingy de Bemaraha National Park. And the thing that's pretty cool about this particular spot is that it looks like the Farlands from Minecraft.
Hello, Bender.
But other than the fact that it has to be completely fictitious, because frankly, that looks like it's straight out of a fucking sci-fi novel, it's also a place that I don't want to drunkenly stumble through because its polygon count is way too low and I fear getting my arteries sickled and being Vlad Tepished on a fucking rock. Another thing that you may notice if you decide to take a gander at the island on Google Maps is that there are a few strange-looking circles dotting the land. Indeed, Madagascar has not, as a matter of fact, been struck by a colossal meteor, but is instead just absolutely littered with collapsed volcanoes, including the Ambohibi Massif, which actually has a tiny village right inside of it. Vox actually went to go and visit it, which doesn't sound too impressive or groundbreaking in terms of journalism until you look at how fucked the island's roads are. Just watch the Grand Tour special if you want to see what I mean. Of course, with any good world-building project like Madagascar, there is a healthy range of spiritual and paranormal lore to get into. Super spooky ghost stories and legends abound. Though, of course, this is also including our favourite subject of metaphysical fan service, cryptids. I'm not going to get into all of them because that series, although very, very fun to make and I was having a grand old time, it was sadly killing us in the algorithm. And it won't come back. Maybe. But one such impish entity that I will divulge is the humble Kalanaro. What the fuck is that
What the fuck is that?
A brief glance at the wiki described
exactly.
it as a small and hairy humanoid with fangs. Their legs are said to be backwards with backwards facing feet, and their eyes glow red. Their hair and fingernails are both long and unkempt. Living solitary lifestyles, they reportedly eat raw meat and have a whining voice which scares dogs. Based on this summary, it is indeed safe to conclude that there must have been some migration of Welsh people to the island, which showcases how far the average Welshman will go to fucking whinge anywhere that he's not needed. Whether that be the arse end of Patagonia or, as we see now, Madagascar. Then there are the Vizimba, who were not actually a proper cryptid, but were instead supposed to be the first Austronesian tribe to inhabit the island around 350 BC. This would not exactly be noteworthy beyond the fact that they don't actually exist today, and that they were not only supposedly a group of pygmies that came from Borneo to settle the island via Homo florensis, but they are also believed by modern Madagascans to still be alive and kicking around today in the form of evil spirits. And they are believed by some to be the very ghosts of the Kalanaro, the ones that we just discussed. Then there's Lemuria. Which, yes, fine, I'll touch on it. Basically, in 1864, some zoologist called Philip Sclater was studying fossils and shit in Madagascar. And he got absolutely bamboozled when he discovered that there were lemurs present both there and in India. So the question was, how did the lemurs end up in both places? And because things like tectonics weren't fully understood by this point in history, the question kept him up all night. And so he concluded that there must have been a massive land bridge stretching all across the Indian Ocean, connecting Madagascar to India, as well as the southwest of Australia. Because, of course, I take great offence to the concept of Lemuria. Because in no world would I ever want Madagascar to be connected to fucking India. That would not be in God's design. Now, with a broader picture of the island itself and its inhabitants, why don't we get into some of the juicy historical tidbits to further show off the writing chops of the island's author, and to showcase that this place cannot be fucking real. Upon conquering the treacherous waters that is now the Cape of Good Hope, Europeans now had access to the chunk of ocean that our plucky island resides in. Of course, Europeans had a vague idea of the island's existence through Arab traders, who, as mentioned, had a presence on the island. They referred to the land as the Island of the Moon. So when the Portuguese Second Armada was passing through the region under Diogo Dias, he took his opportunity to confirm its existence in 1500. Soon enough, in 1513, the first European settlement started springing up on the island, under, once again, the Portuguese. Without inanely rambling about their entire fucking saga of their history, because it's just fucking boring. What is of note is that the second they started trading and bartering with the Malagasy tribes, they got themselves access to all sorts of little goodies, trinkets and treats. And in true Mediterranean fashion, multiple attempts to proselytize to the locals were taking place to middling results. Because, as it turns out, the mixed-race islander moonfolk don't appreciate the Virgin Mother all that much. Of course, now that Europe had ample access not only to the island itself, but also to the lucrative routes to the filthy rich and also just plain filthy Dorito that is the Indian subcontinent, mercantile traffic exploded.
What you
And
mean, Blaze?
wherever there is plump ships with gold that glitters, pirates are always trailing behind, licking their lips and shantying aggressively. One such example is the famed privateer turned plunderer William Kidd, who was commissioned to hunt down French ships in the Indian Ocean, after showcasing his propensity to loot and plunder. He was also born in Dundee, so he already had plenty of experience with that. After getting the taste of proper booty, he decided to go rogue and become a full-blown pirate. Either way, he got himself a hearty chunk of loot that got lost to time, being relegated to a near mythical status. Well, that was until 2015 when a shipwreck was discovered with his cache of booty on board, including a 50-kilogram bar of silver buried under the waves. Buried treasure from a famous pirate off the coast of a mysterious island. I mean, it just writes itself. Piracy in the region was so well known that it actually gave birth to the pirates' equivalent of Hyperborea, with the island of Madagascar supposedly being home to the free haven of Libertatia, which was essentially a corny maritime ANCAP colony that would have definitely been fucking curb-stomped had it been real. But it wasn't real. Of course, as the age of piracy wound down, the trade resumed relatively unmolested. And there were profits to be made on that precious strip of ocean that Madagascar resided on. And all of the countries of Europe wanted a piece. An unlikely candidate that mulled over the idea of setting up a colony on the island was surprisingly not the Dutch, not the British, not the Portuguese, or even the French.
Oh.
Until way later. But instead, Tsar Peter the Great of Russia.
Russia?
Yeah, really, Russia wanted a colony in
never imagine that.
Africa.
I would never imagine that.
I mean, that would be a gnarly alternate history scenario paired with the attempted Cossack colonization of Djibouti.
Oh my god, I would never imagine that.
But sadly, it fell through. Because history can only be so interesting, I guess. But why? Well, because all of the cool European powers have one, and Russia is totally European now. But why did it fall through? Well, simply put, Russia didn't have the money, naval expertise, geography, or even public desire to supply and fund a colony that far out. Besides, they have Asians at home that they can play with. No need to go to Africa to get them. Just pop over the Ural Mountains, tell the perfidious horse people to fuck off, and voila, Siberians. Now, to be fair to the native inhabitants of Madagascar, calling them mere Malagasy tribes would be doing them a disservice, as the disparate Austronesian settlers that intermixed with the Bantus founded their own cliques turned tribes turned kingdoms, with the dominant Marina Kingdom under the dominion of a guy with one of those names.
Oh, wait, what?
Under the dominion of
Adriana Puente Medina. Adriana Puente Medina. Adriana Puente Medina. Adriana Puente Medina. Adriana Puente Medina.
A guy with one of those names where he looks like he just headbutted a keyboard and hoped for the fucking best. But anyway, he had managed to become the de facto ruler of the island at the turn of the 19th century, doing such things as standardizing the language of administration and centralizing said administration. including codifying and ratifying a proper legal framework. This dominance would further entrench under the reign of his son, Radama I, who would consolidate the kingdom by conquering his neighbours and undergoing a period of soft westernization, ratifying a treaty with Britain in 1817 that gave the kingdom an alliance with Britain alongside recognition in exchange for material and the ceasing of slave exports. It was under Radama I that Christian missionaries got given proper support, with the London Missionary School being given the green light to establish 23 schools across the kingdom, and a swathe of industries to facilitate the production and distribution of the Bible in Malagasy, which was painstakingly translated and transcribed into the Latin alphabet. Sadly though, Radama I would be cut down young at 35 years old due to alcohol poisoning, which instantly kick-started a succession crisis as a result due to him not naming a successor. A bunch of malarkey ensued that saw one of his wives ascend the throne as Queen Ranavalona I. Her rule was characterised by a crackdown on the now rapidly growing and radicalising Malagasy Protestant community, alongside the pursuit of what could easily be described as a more nationalist agenda, including the distancing of entanglements with European powers and the further expansion of the Marina Kingdom, with Ramalama fucking Ding Dong, get some real fucking names, having the majority of the island under her control by 1840. This change, of course, would understandably not go down well with certain crowds, and the resulting plots against Ranavalona in favour of her son, Radama II, would flare up and fizzle out due to Radama just not having the necessary vril. Despite that, however, the resulting upswell and raucous debate within the Marina court over a successor caused just enough instability that when Ranavalona kicked the bucket, Radama II could swoop in and assume the throne, immediately turning around and opening the country up to Europeans again. Is it your birthday, senors? This time, however, it was the French. So why the French and not the boys of Old Blighty like Radama I had intended? Well, it was because Radama II was heavily influenced by the French courtiers present within the kingdom, who of course were being incredibly French about the entire situation and nefariously played off his sympathies to supposedly haggle him into accepting a cut of the entire island's natural resources alongside protectorate status in exchange for assistance in creating and upkeeping infrastructure alongside protection from the French. Because they just showed up and started kicking the shit out of them after the Marina had the fucking gall to try and roll back the privileges that they had. Then there was the fate of Radama II, which was decided by, of all things,
I'll open my door to
legalisation
let
of
some
dueling.
AC drift to you.
Yeah, it turns out that consensual dueling was quite the controversial topic within the kingdom due to the belief that it would cause the breakdown of civil society. Like the purge or something. And when it came into effect, the Marina Prime Minister, who also has a name that I'm not even going to fucking try and pronounce,
Renifonina Hitrion Renivonina Hitrioni Renivonina Hitrioni
literally turning around and sending in several thousand troops to march on the capital to apprehend the royal family and the Menamaso, who, long story short, were political groupies that the monarch was tight with. And boy howdy was he ride or die for them, because Radama II personally negotiated his own surrender, knowing that he would be killed, but on the condition that all of his Menamaso Vatos would make it out of there alive. And they did. For around 48 hours before they were all apprehended and fucking speared to death. As for Radama II, he would follow suit soon afterwards, when the army came in, apprehended him, and then strangled him to death with a silk sheet. So, why did all the other guys get the full Dracula flow, but Radama just got strangled? Well, because it was tradition that executions of royals in Madagascar had to have absolutely no bloodshed. So they do things that are arguably way more fucked up than just putting a couple of holes in them and calling it a day. This would be further complicated by the rumours circulating of Radama II's survival, as apparently, despite being very, very fucking strangled to death, he just couldn't help but become a local legend that would cause mass unrest, because what do you mean the old king is still alive, is in hiding, and is plotting to make a grand return any day now? That was kind of fucking up a lot of things. It even was fucking up the Frenchies' plans to outright annex the island as a colony. Nothing ever came of that though, because he was actually dead. And just like that, Madagascar was incorporated into the mighty yet shitey French Empire, as yet another plot of land for the frogs to do absolutely fuck all with, besides teaching the locals how to speak French. Unless you're Algeria, of course, wasting their potential and condemning them to unstable presidential republicanism and overall being very, very gay. A true heartbreak. This status quo would remain until the Second World War, when Madagascar would fall under the domain of Vichy France after the fall.
We actually had people fighting over that shit. Yeah, oh my god.
Of Paris, and be the only part of Africa that would see operations by the Japanese, who were relegated to being just basic naval activity due to overextension and a general lack of interest in the place. I mean, like, I don't know what the Japanese were doing there. Like, Madagascar really, really wasn't important. Speaking of World War II, actually, it's not just us in the modern day who find the entirety of Madagascar fucking weird. Because even back then, in the 18th to 20th centuries, Europeans were absolutely fascinated by these enigmatic yellow Africans. So much so that when science had its super cool and totally not morally ambiguous fixation on the biological nature of race itself, holy shit, I just felt my analytics rating plummet just from saying that, they immediately flocked to the island. And the conclusion that they reached upon seeing and studying the native Malagasy was that they were, in fact, Jewish. No, you did not mishear.
Oh no, oh no, oh no, here we go again. No, no, why always? Why always, oh god.
And I did not misspeak. They seriously thought that the Malagasy were at least somewhat Jewish, due in part to the vague cultural similarities to Jewry that only a schizophrenic physiognomy enthusiast like Evola could pick up on. As both the Malagasy and the Jews were what he would describe as a lunar civilization, who are inherently feminine in nature. But that's a whole rabbit hole for another day. But needless to say, there were some coincidences worth investigating. Because apparently there is indeed a sprinkle of truth in this outer Zion malarkey. As other than the gnarly spiritual and cultural coincidences of the islanders, the previously mentioned Arab traders that got zesty with the
Yakub descendants with pineal glands calcified.
Fruity mixed-race moonfolk did indeed leave a small genetic legacy in certain populations throughout the island. Now, of course, this wasn't known back in the day because the genetic study wasn't actually done until 2013. But all the Europeans of the day needed was an aggressive vibe check, and that was them set. As such, they started dwelling upon this big and isolated island far away from Europe with Jew-adjacent people dumped on it. In 1878, German biblical scholar, Orientalist and bearded hard-boiled egg, Paul de la Garde, had himself a jolly little schizo-writing session. This titillating Teutonic tome tells of a proposed scheme to offset the local Jewish population to Madagascar. Why did he want this? Well, he was a German intellectual in the 19th century. So, of course, he's going to have some very, very saucy opinions on God's chosen people. So, to the surprise of absolutely no one, when 1940 saw the fall of France and Poland at the hands of the Star Wars Reddit Germans, they were quite keen to revive this idea. Thus, we got the Madagascar Plan, with the objective being to resettle an average of 1 million Jews a year to the island, which would be under SS supervision. Which, I don't know, that number seems awfully high. And no, not like that.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, logistically. I'll explain. The main reason for the plan's entire abandonment is frankly the lack of viable access to the island, with it not only being a French colony, as such having a number of armed frogs on it, but also the fact that in order to even get there, you had to go through the British-owned Suez Canal, or take the long way around, passing either through the English Channel or British Gibraltar. And if they do have to go west, they'll have to get past British-run South Africa. So, you can see the sort of problems that the underfunded Kriegsmarine had to grapple with. Discounting the fact that they also would have to go mano-a-mano with the Royal Navy. That is to say, they wouldn't have been able to move it. No, I'm not fucking sorry. There needed to be at least one reference in there somewhere. So, with the likelihood of the plan's fruition already looking very, very slim, it's not a shock that the failure of Germany to take Terf Island during the Battle of Britain put the kibosh on the entire scheme for good. But what if it succeeded? Imagine, instead of Israel being a political hellscape that I'm scared of touching with a 10-foot pole, Israel could have instead been in Madagascar, where it would also
what the flame Melata? They have to be joking. That those trees cannot be real.
have been a political hellscape that I'd be scared of touching, but a lot further away.
Those
Isolated
trees are so
on an
weird.
island in the Indian Ocean that is orders of magnitude bigger. Regardless, the end of the Second World War would see the independence of Madagascar as a united and cohesive republic that would shortly after slide into a junta, following widespread unrest over the country still being too French governmentally, before eventually squaring off nicely into a Marxist state with Marina characteristics, with the Malagasy Mao being former foreign minister and ambassador to France, Didier Ratsiraka, who was appointed the president of the Second Republic by the military administration. And yes, they really did speedrun the French tradition of having multiple republics, with the Malagasy First Republic lasting a whole 17 years before getting a nice new Second World spin. Didier would set Madagascar on a course of its own throughout the Cold War. Fitting as he was a Navy man whose nicknames were literally the Red Admiral and Diba, which literally translates to the big man. Ironic, considering he seemed to be the very same height as, if not slightly smaller than, Vladimir Putin. who is potentially one of the most aggressively 5'7" men to have ever walked this earth. So what was Ratsaraka's
Vladimir
reign
Putin?
like? Well, he guided the country to be left-leaning, but officially non-aligned, just like Yugoslavia. He also pursued economic nationalism and decolonization TM, going so far as to host and broadcast the anti-apartheid Radio Freedom on behalf of the ANC. The economy became an absolute wreck by the 1980s, because of course it did.
What? What happened? Are you guys there still? What's going on with
widespread
my
unrest?
Oh my god.
Because of course there was. And the military was disproportionately influential in politics, both local and national. That is to say, it was fairly run-of-the-mill in terms of Eastern Bloc countries, even though they weren't actually in the Eastern Bloc officially. This regime would find itself following its red siblings and would dissolve itself into the Third Republic, following the Berlin Wall being torn down, with the socialist era lasting an entire 17 years. Again, the Third Republic was frankly boring as fuck and no one really gave a shit about it. Beyond the usual stuff of corruption and creeping authoritarianism coming from then Mayor of Antananarivo, Mark Ravalomanana, whom, by the way, got couped out in 2009, formally ending the Third Republic with a bang, and it having lasted a whole 18 years. Even though it's not exact, it's very, very weird that all the republics have lasted pretty much the exact same amount of time.
It's like a curse.
That's all whatever,
It's a curse.
So what came after? Well, beyond a transitionary authority, what came next was the creatively named Fourth Republic of Madagascar, which is sort of the one that we have now. Speaking of...
Yeah, up until completes like 70 years too. I don't know how I don't know for how long they are there on the Fourth Republic.
Of which, what the fuck was up with all of those protests a while back? Well, without getting into the deep...
What the fuck it was there? What the
all
fuck?
Of those protests...
Is this One Piece or what? What the fuck? What does that mean? What the fuck is this? What the fuck is happening there?
A while back. Well, without getting into the deep nitty-gritty of it, the current Zoomers on the island were all boogalooing in the streets again over water and power outages, alongside yet more corruption. You know, if you could believe it, I mean, it is, they might not be African, but they're close enough. But anyway, that resulted in the appointing of weirdly popular Generalissimo Michael... I'm not saying...
Handrianina. Oh my god, Randrianirina.
In these fucking stupid names. But anyway, he was appointed in 2025, bringing the Third Republic sort of to an end after 15 years of waiting. I don't know what's going on with these timescales, but basically, I think we kind of have a measure for how long it will take for Madagascar's government to change. But you know what? Who cares? Honestly, most of this video was just an excuse to rattle off a continual case of what if those weird Sumatran moonchuds didn't make it to the island? What if they didn't kill off all of the elephant birds that I didn't mention until now because boom, sucker punch? Guess what? They were chunkier and a lot more muscular ostriches that were fucking massive. Very cool. Do you want another one? Citizens of Madagascar still suffer from the fucking plague. Yes, the plague, the literal Black Death, that this very same one that wiped out like a fifth of Europe.
Oh my god!
They still have it there. And they're sort of struggling to get rid of it.
Oh my god, I cannot. Oh my god, man. That's insane. That's too much dangerous thing to. They still have it there?
How vintage. What if the Russians or the Germans actually colonized the island? What if the French actually did anything with it? Because from all of the lore that I've read, the French did absolutely fuck all. What if I never mentioned this video on the second channel in the first place? If only. But you know what? All of that is a bleeding shame, because this strange island off the coast of the Dark Continent has a
That raises a lot of concern.
truly fascinating history, which I've only just barely scratched the surface of. I wish the place was fake so that I didn't have to actually sit here and entertain all of this drivel. An African but not black proto-Israel that is full of weird alien fauna that looks AI generated. There's simply no fucking way
It
that
really
this place is
does. It really does.
Ah, Preston, what you got for me? When I sent you for a scoop, I didn't mean just vanilla. Preston. Hello, Preston. What did I even hire you for? You give me something right now or you're fired. This is getting kind of weird, Preston, even for you. So what do you got for me? Preston. Preston. Preston, you forgot your bag. There it is.
Madagascar, it's weird.
Could have fired him anyway. Not even sure if I pay the guy. Don't think you'd want a sidekick anyway. Not after the last one. Oh shit. Preston, before you go, forgot to say. A couple of goons came by the office yesterday, wearing black suits. Looked like bad news. Anyway, they wanted me to give you this. I'd watch my back if I were you. Anyway, see you tomorrow.
Just when I thought this job couldn't get any weirder. My most important contacts are all getting
Oh my god.
spooked in a way I ain't seen before. Something big is coming. Whole region's been gonzo for a while, but that ain't usually my style. I try to avoid gunfire when I can help it. So where do I fit in? Looks like a new theater is opening up. And entering stage left is me.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube!
Very. It was interesting, but at the same time, kinda useless. But it's incredible. They really seems to be cursed, right? Like 70 years, like around 70, 80 years, or also was like 50. Like always around the mark, more or less. Like some shit happens. It's really sad. Like they really seems to be cursed. Even more when you think that they still have that thing there, that biological weapon there, that mass murdering machine there, Oh my god, damn. A lot of stuff. If I remember for what they show here in that video very fast, the very fast wasn't there too where we had those like very giant birds that were extinct when humans started going there because they didn't have natural predators and they didn't fear like humans, and they were immediately extinct. Wasn't it there too? I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was in Australia. And I'm confusing. It was some island. I think it was Madagascar. Maybe I'm wrong. Just want to remind you guys to join our Discord server, become a Foxling today. Support your Foxu on Patreon, or here, or on. I mean, you're watching this on YouTube, right? So, yeah, on Kick, give like gifted subs, subscribe, or through Ko-Fi donations, yeah, to help fuel the community charge that subs to a lot of stuff like paying monthly bills and also to yeah, it helps a lot. I'm terrible. You guys know I'm terrible in merchandise myself. So yeah, do that support Foxu because I'm doomed on Booktube, so I depend on you guys to stay here, stay relevant, stay surviving. So yeah, that's it. Let's go to the next one. Before we go any further, I want to take this brief moment here to thank all of you, my patrons, for the incredible support to my work here on YouTube, and especially my 5-tail Fox Tire member, the Holy Ball, and to all of my 3-tail Fox Tire members, Wallony Wolf, Fanny Sylvie, It Himself, Chile Not Serious, Eustace the Useful, Zealous Isaiah, Ala Rosas, Max Tenor, Nucutino, Avery, Halcyonic Eder, and TV8. Thank you very, very much. You guys are amazing. Also, thanks to everyone that have been supporting me on Ko-Fi, Kick, and to all of my YouTube members. You can support this channel life and growth with just $5 a month and gain access to many perks. This is less than a burrito. Check out my Patreon. Link is in the description below. And that's it for today, my dear Foxlings. See you guys in the next one. Bye bye.